You've walked past it, on a high street somewhere, near a station, outside a shopping center. A strange gray lump of concrete, faceted and sloping, sitting where a bench obviously should be. And some part of your brain filed it under bad public art, or the council ran out of money, and you kept walking. It's neither. That lump is, by some distance, the most carefully engineered bench on the planet. It has a name, the Camden bench, and it was designed by committee with input from the police to do one specific job, to be impossible to use for anything except sitting, briefly, before you get up and leave. Design critics have struggled to even classify it. One called it the perfect anti-object. Another called it a masterpiece of unpleasant design, a thing defined far more by what it isn't than by what it is, because almost every line of it exists to stop something. You just can't see it yet, because the hostility is hidden inside a shape that reads, at a glance, as completely normal. That's the trick this whole video is going to undo, because the Camden bench isn't badly designed, it's brilliantly designed. The brilliance was just aimed at you, and at people poorer than you, and you were never meant to notice. By the time we're done, you'll be able to look at this concrete lump and read it like a blueprint. Every curve, every slope, every missing inch decoded into the exact behavior and the exact person it was built to repel. So let's take the world's most hostile bench completely apart and see who it was really built against. To understand the bench, you have to understand the problem it was built to solve. Because the problem wasn't, we need somewhere to sit. In the years before 2012, Camden, like a lot of places, had a habit of quietly ripping benches out, wherever a bench attracted the wrong behavior. Someone sleeping on it, kids skating it, a bit of dealing, people just lingering too long. The council's fix was to remove the bench entirely, which technically solved the problem, and also left ordinary people with nowhere to sit. You can only do that so many times before a high street has no seating left at all. So Camden commissioned something cleverer. They went to a company called Factory Furniture, with a brief that sounds almost like a riddle. Design us a bench that can only ever be a bench. One you can sit on, but can't sleep on, can't skate, can't deal from, can't graffiti, can't even comfortably loiter on. A bench that defeats every use except the single one it's named for. And this wasn't one designer sketching on a napkin. It was worked up by committee, council planners with input from the Metropolitan Police, which tells you everything about how it was conceived, not as furniture, but as a crime prevention device you happen to be allowed to sit on. Factory Furniture had form here too. Back in the 1990s, they'd made something called the Serpentine bench, openly marketed on the fact that it was uncomfortable to sleep on. The Camden bench was that idea perfected. The company's founder has been strikingly honest about the goal. The point is to minimize the amount of time people spend in an area, give the surface a perch or a slope, and people simply can't settle. Pushed on the homelessness angle, the company's line got blunter still, that society shouldn't design itself to accommodate homelessness, because being made uncomfortable by it is a useful reminder that it's a problem. Sit with that logic for a second, because it's the whole philosophy of the object in a sentence. A school of design that even has a name, unpleasant design. The discomfort isn't a side effect, it's the product. So let's actually read the object. Walk up to a Camden bench and ask, of every weird design choice, one question. What is this stopping? Because once you do, the whole thing decodes. Start with the shape, because the shape is the headline act. A normal bench is flat. Flat is comfortable, and flat is also sleepable. The Camden bench refuses to be flat. Its top is sculpted into shallow ridges and slopes, a surface that's just fine for the few minutes you'll perch on it to eat a sandwich, and quietly impossible to stretch out on. There's nowhere to lie down because there is no down. Every surface is tilted just enough to slide a sleeping body off. That's feature 1, anti-sleep, built straight into the geometry. Now look at the edges. On a normal bench, the edges are an afterthought. Here, they're a weapon. They rise and fall in height along the bench's length, so there's no clean, consistent lip to grind a skateboard along. This is a whole category of hostile design in its own right. The skate stopper. Those little metal nubs you've seen bolted onto ledges and handrails. Except on the Camden bench, the skate stopping isn't bolted on. It's baked into the form itself. Feature 2. Anti-skate. Run your hand over the surface and you hit feature 3. It's finished with a paint-repellent coating, so spray paint won't properly key to it and a tag wipes off. Anti-graffiti. Chemically. Then notice what's missing. No slots, no gaps, no crevices, no hollow underside. No little ledge where something could be tucked away. On an ordinary bench, those gaps are just where litter collects. but they're also where someone might stash a wrap of drugs. So the Camden bench has none. Nowhere to hide trash, nowhere to hide a stash. Features 4 and 5. Anti-litter and anti-dealer, achieved not by adding anything, but by sealing the object so smooth there's nowhere for anything to go. Notice the pattern already forming. Every one of these is a subtraction. The designers didn't add comfort and then protect it. They started from a list of human behaviors and engineered each one out, one by one, until what was left was a shape that does almost nothing. That's 4 or 5 separate uses denied, and we haven't even reached the 2 features that give the whole game away, because so far, every feature has taken something away. The 2 that are left do something different. They tell you who the bench is actually for. The first is the only genuinely user-friendly thing on the whole object. Down near the ground, there are small recesses, deliberate little nooks, and they have a real considerate purpose. They let you tuck your bag behind your legs, pulled in against the bench, where a passing thief can't grab it and run. Anti-theft and genuinely helpful, but stop and ask who that feature is for. It's for the person sitting down for a few minutes with a bag worth stealing. The commuter, the shopper, the office worker on a lunch break. The bench has exactly one comfort feature, and it exists to protect the property of the customer the city wants. Every subtraction targets the unwanted user. The one addition serves the wanted one. That's not an accident. That's the entire worldview of the object, carved into concrete. The second tell is the wildest, and most people never learn it. The Camden bench weighs around 1,765 kilograms, nearly 2 tons. It isn't bolted down because it doesn't need to be. Nothing that heavy is going anywhere. And that mass isn't only to stop people stealing the bench. It's so the bench can double as a vehicle barrier. It's officially approved by the Home Office under a security standard called PAS 68 as counter-terrorism infrastructure, the kind of obstacle you drop into a plaza to stop a truck being driven into a crowd. It can be craned into position as a checkpoint. Let that land. The thing you sit on to eat your lunch is also rated to stop a moving vehicle. It's a bollard that's been generously allowed to also be a seat. The seating was almost the afterthought. And finally, the material joins in. It's heavy, exposed aggregate concrete. And one of the quiet cruelties of concrete is that it never warms up. Even on a hot day, the surface stays cold and hard against you. Fine for 5 minutes, faintly unwelcoming for any longer. The object is hostile right down to its molecules. So that's the full spec sheet. 5 things it stops, 1 thing it protects for the right kind of person, and a 2-ton security rating thrown in. Now look at what that adds up to. Here's the genius and the horror of the Camden bench. Compare it to the cruder, hostile design it replaced. When a London apartment block installed anti-homeless spikes in a doorway, the public reaction was instant and ferocious. A petition gathered over 130,000 signatures. Protesters smothered the spikes in wet concrete, and they came out within days. Spikes failed, not because they didn't work, but because everyone could see exactly what they were. The Camden bench solves that problem completely. It does the same job, clear out the unwanted, move everyone else along, but it never looks cruel. It looks like modern public art. It looks like a design choice. When a journalist interviewed people using one back in 2012, the lunch crowd said they actually liked it. It didn't feel to them like the spikes they found so objectionable. That's the whole trick. The hostility didn't go away. It just put on a nicer outfit, and the public, by and large, accepted the disguise. Which is why, of all the hostile urban design examples out there, this one might be the most important to understand. The spike is honest. It announces its violence. The Camden bench hides its violence inside a sculptural, faceted, almost stylish form, specifically so you won't object. So you'll sit down, enjoy your sandwich, and never once feel the thing quietly deciding who's allowed to stay. But here's the turn, and it's why we did this whole teardown. The disguise only works on people who can't read the object. Once you know the slope is anti-sleep, the wavy edge is anti-skate, the sealed surface is anti-stash, the little nook is for the customer's bag, and the 2 tons are for a truck, the costume falls off completely. To you, now, the Camden bench can't lie. Every curve is a confession. It's no longer a bench with a few quirks. It's a public, physical list of every person and every act the city would rather erase. And you're not alone in seeing it. The bench has become a magnet for exactly the resistance it was built to prevent. People deliberately skating it, sleeping on it, tagging it, precisely because they understand what it's saying and want to say no back. An object designed to end a conversation about who belongs has, instead, started one. So go back to that gray lump you walked past at the start. You can see it now. It isn't bad art, and the council didn't run out of money. It's one of the most deliberately designed objects on your entire street, a machine for sorting people. dressed up as somewhere to sit. And it turns out it was never the dishonest one. The Camden bench tells you the complete truth about your city, if you're willing to read it. It tells you that comfort is conditional, that rest is a privilege the design will grant you for about 5 minutes, and no more. That your bag is worth protecting, but your back isn't. That somewhere in a meeting, a list was drawn up of all the ways a human being might use a piece of public space, and almost every one of them was marked prevent. The bench is just that list, poured in concrete and left on the pavement for everyone to sit on and nobody to notice. So here's what I'll ask of you. Go and find your local version. Every town has one now. The bench you can't lie on, the ledge studded with little nubs, the seat that's somehow always uncomfortable. Walk up to it and read it the way we just read the Camden bench. Ask what each strange feature is stopping and who it's stopping. Then tell me in the comments what your city is confessing, because once you start reading these objects, you genuinely cannot stop. That's the whole point of this channel, learning to see the decisions that were made about you in concrete and steel without your say. If you want to keep pulling the city apart like this, subscribe. There's a lot more out there pretending to be furniture.